If you love dark, slow-burn single-dad romances built on grief, restraint, and the kind of intimacy that forms when two wounded lives collide at the wrong hour, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you never miss the next story. Tonight's story is She Knocked After Midnight. The single dad opened the door and changed everything. The knock comes at 12:43 a.m. Not loud, not desperate, just firm enough to be deliberate. Lucas Hale is awake already. He usually is. Sleep never learned how to stay once grief taught his body how to listen for absence. He stands in the kitchen of his small, weathered house, light off, a glass of water untouched in his hand. No one knocks on his door anymore. Lucas is 44, broad-shouldered, worn in a way that has nothing to do with age and everything to do with surviving something that never really ended. The house sits at the edge of a quiet road, far enough from town that noise feels optional. He chose it that way. Another knock. Lucas doesn't reach for the light. He moves quietly, checking the window beside the door first. Instinct honed from years of protecting something precious. The woman on his porch looks like she stepped out of the wrong night. White, early 30s, hair damp, coat pulled tight around her body, eyes bright with something that isn't panic, but isn't calm either. She stands straight, like collapsing would be a mistake she can't afford. When Lucas opens the door, she exhales as if she's been holding her breath since the walk up the driveway. "I'm sorry," she says immediately. "I wouldn't knock this late unless I had no other option." Lucas studies her carefully. People in trouble carry it differently. Some shake. Some talk too much. She's still. Too controlled. "What do you need?" he asks. Her gaze flicks past him just once, scanning the dark behind his shoulder. Somewhere safe. Just for tonight. Lucas hesitates. Every rule he lives by says no. He doesn't invite strangers in. He doesn't blur boundaries. He doesn't reopen doors, literal or emotional, that took years to close. But there's something in her eyes that feels familiar. Not fear. Loss. "You can come in," he says finally. "But we talk first." Relief softens her shoulders, but she doesn't rush past him. She steps inside carefully, like she's learned not to assume welcome lasts. "My name is Mara," she says quietly. "Lucas." She shrugs out of her coat, revealing clothes that look slept in rather than chosen. She smells faintly of rain and cold air. Lucas gestures toward the kitchen table. "Seat." She does. They face each other across the table, the silence thick but not hostile. "I'm not in trouble with the law," Mara says. "I'm not here to hurt you. I just needed somewhere off the map." Lucas doesn't ask why. "Not yet. I lost my wife 4 years ago," he says instead. "And my daughter the year before that." Mara stills. "I don't keep people here," he continues calmly. "If you stay tonight, it's because you understand that." "I do," she says immediately. "I won't take more than you offer." The honesty in that answer settles something in him. "You can stay," Lucas says. "The couch is yours." Mara nods. "Thank you." That should be the end of it. It isn't. Morning arrives quietly. Lucas wakes to the smell of coffee, real coffee, not the reheated kind he usually forgets on the counter. He freezes in the hallway, listening. Mara stands in the kitchen, hair pulled back loosely, wearing the sweatshirt he left folded on the chair for her. She turns when she hears him. "I hope that's okay," she says, gesturing to the coffee. "I couldn't sleep." "Neither do I," he replies. They drink together in silence. It's not awkward. Careful. Mara doesn't pry. She doesn't ask questions about the framed photograph on the shelf that Lucas never moved. She doesn't comment on how empty the house feels despite being lived in. Later that morning, she tells him the truth in pieces. She left someone powerful. Someone who didn't take refusal well. She didn't steal anything. Didn't threaten. She just disappeared, and that, apparently, was unacceptable. "I'm not asking to stay forever," she says. "Just until I know he isn't looking anymore." Lucas listens, jaw tight. "No one gets to decide that for you," he says. Mara watches him carefully. "You don't talk like someone who scares easily." "I used to be a single dad," Lucas answers quietly. "Fear teaches you priorities." From that moment on, something shifts. Days turn into a pattern neither of them names. Mara stays. Lucas doesn't ask how long. They move around each other with instinctive awareness, giving space, offering presence. She cleans without being asked. He cooks more than he has in years. They eat together at the table instead of separately like Lucas used to. At night, Lucas locks the doors twice. Not because she asks, because the idea of failing to protect her does something sharp to his chest. The attraction builds quietly, in the way Mara looks at him when she thinks he isn't paying attention, in the way Lucas notices her shoulders relax when she hears his footsteps, in the way the house feels less hollow when she's inside it. One evening the power goes out. The house drops into darkness, sudden and complete. Mara inhales sharply before she can stop herself. Lucas is beside her immediately. Not touching, just close enough to be solid. "It's okay," he says. "Storm's bad. It'll come back." She nods, but she doesn't move away. They sit on the couch with candles lit, the storm battering the windows. Mara's knee brushes his. Neither pulls back. "I haven't felt safe like this in a long time," she admits softly. Lucas swallows. "Neither have I." The kiss doesn't happen then. It happens days later, quietly, accidentally. Mara reaches for a mug at the same time Lucas does. Their fingers brush. She freezes. He doesn't move away. "Is this okay?" he asks. She nods once. "Yes." The kiss is slow, careful, almost reverent. Feels less like desire and more like recognition. When they part, Mara rests her forehead against his chest, breathing him in like she's grounding herself in reality. They don't rush after that. They talk. About grief. About guilt. About how loving again feels like trespassing on something sacred. Lucas admits, "I don't know how to do this without feeling like I'm betraying the past." Mara answers, "Love doesn't erase what came before. It just proves it mattered." The danger resurfaces one afternoon. A car idles too long at the end of the road. Mara notices first. Lucas moves without thinking, locking doors, positioning himself between her and the window. His calm is frighteningly controlled. The car leaves. That night, Mara shakes in his arms, fear finally breaking through the restraint she's worn like armor. "I didn't want to bring this into your life," she whispers. Lucas holds her tighter. "You didn't." He did. She stays in his bed that night. They don't touch beyond what's needed to stay anchored. The intimacy is in the closeness, in the shared breathing, in the way Lucas's hand rests protectively at her back. Mara sleeps. Lucas doesn't. For the first time in years, he doesn't mind. The weeks that follow are heavy but healing. Legal steps are taken. Boundaries enforced. The man from Mara's past loses leverage, power, access. The threat fades into something manageable. With every passing day, Mara becomes more herself. She laughs more easily. She stops flinching at sudden sounds. She opens the windows Lucas forgot existed. One morning, she stands in the doorway of the spare room, the one Lucas never uses. "You don't have to keep this house frozen in time," she says gently. He looks at her. "I know." Later, they make love for the first time, not desperate, not rushed. Slow. Intentional. Built on trust rather than urgency. Afterward, Mara rests against his chest. "You still a single dad?" she asks quietly. Lucas answers without hesitation. "Always." She smiles softly. "Then let me love all of that." Months later, the house feels different. Not replaced. Expanded. Mara's things exist alongside Lucas's memories without competing. The photograph stays on the shelf. The past remains honored, not locked away. One evening, as the sun sets beyond the trees, Mara knocks playfully on the front door from the porch. Lucas opens it, smiling. "You know," she says, "that midnight knock changed everything." He pulls her into his arms. It did. And for the first time since loss carved his life in two, Lucas knows this truth with certainty. Opening the door didn't undo him. It saved him. After that night, Lucas begins to notice the smallest changes. Not in Mara, but in himself. He wakes before dawn out of habit, expecting the familiar tightness in his chest, the reflexive reach for grief before consciousness fully forms. Instead, he hears breathing beside him. Steady. Real. Present. The sound anchors him in a way nothing has in years. Mara sleeps on her side, facing him, one hand curled loosely near his chest as if even unconscious she knows where safety lives. Lucas doesn't touch her at first. He just watches, memorizing the way peace looks on her when she isn't bracing for impact. It scares him how much he wants this to last. They don't talk about the future right away. They talk about practical things instead: groceries, repairs the house needs before winter, the strange comfort of routine after chaos. Lucas finds himself fixing things he ignored for years: a loose step on the porch, a flickering light in the hallway, things he never bothered with because no one was there to notice. Mara notices. "You're rebuilding," she says one afternoon, watching him sand down an old windowsill. Lucas pauses. "I think I'm just staying. The difference matters. Some nights are still hard. Grief doesn't vanish just because love arrives." There are evenings when Lucas goes quiet, staring out the window like he's listening for something only he can hear. Mara never demands explanations. She sits beside him, close enough to feel but not crowd. When he finally speaks, it's never what she expects. "I used to think loving again would erase them," he admits one night. "My wife. My daughter. Like I'd be choosing one life over another." Mara rests her head against his shoulder. "Love doesn't replace love," she says softly. "It just proves your heart survived." That's when Lucas understands something he's been resisting. Being a single dad was never about who was physically present. It was about who shaped him. Protection didn't leave him when he lost them. It became part of his bones. The past resurfaces one final time. Not violently, not dramatically, but quietly. A letter arrives. Forwarded mail. A reminder of legal threats finally closing. Mara reads it carefully, then exhales like she's been holding her breath for months. "It's done," she says. Lucas watches her shoulders relax fully for the first time since she knocked on his door. The moment feels fragile, sacred. "What now?" she asks. Lucas doesn't answer right away. He thinks of the man he used to be, the one who measured survival in distance traveled, and how quickly he could disappear after a job ended. He thinks of the house before Mara arrived, how silence used to feel like punishment instead of peace. "You stay," he says finally. "If you want to." She studies his face, searching for hesitation. There isn't any. "I want to," she says. They don't celebrate loudly. No dramatic declarations. Just a shared meal that night, eaten slowly, deliberately. Lucas reaches for her hand across the table without thinking. She squeezes back. Weeks pass. Then months. The house fills in. Not with noise but with life. Mara's books appear on the shelves. Her mug joins his in the cupboard. The spare room becomes an office instead of a reminder. The photograph stays where it is, honored, untouched. One evening, as rain taps softly against the windows, Mara turns to him and asks almost shyly, "Do you ever regret opening the door that night?" Lucas doesn't hesitate. "No," he says. "It taught me something." "What?" "That healing doesn't arrive loudly," he answers. "Sometimes it just knocks, and waits to see if you're brave enough to answer." Mara smiles, eyes shining. And as Lucas pulls her close, feeling warmth where there used to be only absence, he knows this truth without doubt. He didn't lose his identity when he lost his family. He carried it forward, and opening the door didn't undo him. It gave him a reason to stay.